Hey, are we live? Yeah, we are. Welcome. Welcome to the live. Um, Today, I'm going to talk about, I suppose it's aligned to business, but it's like taking risks. And what do you do when you need some money? You've got a good idea. I say you've got a great idea, and you think, oh, well, I really want to start that thing, that new project or that new business, but I ain't got any money. How do I fund it? And you start thinking about, oh, do I know anyone with some money? Will they lend me some money? Will they invest in me? Do I need investment? Can I do it on a shoestring? And all these kind of things. And there are so many considerations here, because there's no denying that, money is one of them things, isn't it? It's a tool, and it like don't half get rid of a lot of problems, right? If you happen to have your money on the table. And we're also quite risk averse when it comes to borrowing money. So we'd much rather someone just give us money or invest in us. But then if we get invested, we give away our business effectively, or we give part of our idea away. We're sort of sharing it with someone else. So the best scenario is obviously to get the money, keep your idea, keep what we call equity, and run with it. But obviously that's not possible. So there are many. This takes me. I've done a few videos on this. When I did my video. I was starting my tech business, where I talked about investment there, and I think I made a few mistakes there. I put myself through some severe pain bootstrapping it for years to get that going, and it was fucking painful. And if I had the investment, I would have gone a lot quicker, a lot faster, a lot sooner, with a lot less personal pain, let's put it that way. But I was a bit of a sucker for punishment at the time, and I was just sort of holding on to it. So I decided to sort of not get investment and just crack on. So I bootstrapped it, and it took many years. Very, very difficult because you have to run. Keep your nose down. Thanks. Thank you. Very difficult. Yeah, I'll keep it down. No worries. Just keep it between us. Hi. So yeah, I bootstrapped it, but when I so I did another video on creating the e-commerce business, and I had a completely different mindset. The minute I started that business, I decided that I am open to investment. I'm not going to go through, say, 10 years of pain like I did with my first business, trying to bootstrap it, trying to grow it organically. I thought, forget that this time, I'm going to go for investment. So I decided from the moment, I was almost already okay with giving away equity straight away, which I thought, right, great. So here I am. The journals, which is the e-commerce business, I've kind of like running out of stock now. I've only got a few left, probably a month or two left, which is great. So just under a year of pretty much, I took a risk on the first stock run, and I took a risk. That through the window, you left it, Tad. Right, what do you mean? I don't even know. Thank you. Yeah, good. Right, so to your left, it Tad. Ah, right, okay, over there. Yeah, so anyway, so on this business, right, I nearly sold the stock, and it's like, what do I do? Well, and I was thinking about this, do I get investment? Obviously, we brought Nikki on board. She brought some cash in, but we need quite a bit of money. And my initial two thoughts were, well, I wanted another investor, right, which is fine. Do we have another investor, or do we go for, say, a bank loan, this kind of thing? So I've been weighing up the odds, right, and I found something called, if you're in the UK, they do these government-backed startup loans, which are 6%. You can borrow quite a bit, not loads, but borrow a bit of money at 6%. Banks are currently lending at sort of 8.9, 9%, around there. 8% seems to be a figure at the minute. If you can get one, I mean, some business loans, if you go to one of these kind of like funding circle things, they want fucking 24%, stuff like this. So it's like credit card rates, you can forget it. So when it comes to seeking investment, right, let's say you got this idea, if you took a loan, what that means is you're taking on all the risk yourself, right? You're not actually taking, it depends on how you structure the loan, but if it's unsecured or if it's a business loan, then it's against the business, right? It's not against you personally. But quite often when you get a business loan, they want a personal guarantee. Always the same, when you get business finance, they want a personal guarantee, usually, right? Which means you're on the hook personally anyway. I mean, they can't take your eggs, but you're on the hook, basically. So when you take a loan, you're taking the risk. When you take investment, like, you're giving away equity, right? So you're actually losing part of your business, but you're not taking any risk. That investor is taking the risk. And if you think about it, like, there's kind of a risk versus reward thing here, because eventually, if you're building a business and growing a business, usually you sell out at some point, right? Usually there is a point which you want to exit. And it's like when to exit. Well, think about the perfect scenario. The perfect scenario would be, for me, to grow it as far as you can organically, even if you take loans and things, but you're paying them back like bank loans, but you're not giving away any equity. If you could grow that as far as you can with your own resources, right, you're going to get a better valuation. And then you do 2 sales, I think. One, like you sell equity, maybe you sell a majority share, and you keep a bit back, and then later the idea is it will grow again, and then you have a second sale, right, as in the rest of your equity, even if you keep a minor shareholding. So that's the ideal, but it's not always the case. So a lot of people when they got nothing to start with, right, absolutely no money whatsoever, you have to take investment, right? Because quite often when you, even a bank won't even lend a new business. So when I created the journal business, even though I got another business and I got a new bank account with the same flipping bank that I banked with, they won't give me a business loan. It's like, no, we're not giving you a business loan for stock. I said, I need stock. It's like, well, you've no proven track record, so they won't give you a business loan on a brand new business that you've literally just opened an account. You can take a personal loan for sure, but you can't have a business loan, right? So I ended up having to fund that first stock myself, and I'm here now, and I'm thought, right, I'm not funding it again myself, this stock, because it is far more, like, now I'm going to get, say, 3 times the amount of stock, because I've just had, let's say, best part of 12 months regular sales. I know I'll sell the damn things. It's just a matter of time. Sales are rising. It's just a matter of time. It's kind of like investing in a piece of, you're investing in stock is like investing in a piece of land. Eventually it will mature, right? And the way it works is you invest in stock. It's not going to go off. It'll eventually sell. So it's not that much of a risk. The first time round, when you start a business and you buy stock, I remember Will, who I did the podcast with, he's got a fabulous e-commerce idea for animal supplements. It's fucking brilliant, his idea, but he's put it on the back burner because of the cost involved in buying the stock up front. You know what I mean? He's building his, and he's also very busy building his podcast platform. He's doing quite well with it. So obviously he's got to build his podcast, needs to focus there. And eventually when he gets some money or whatever, if he gets in a position where he can take a loan, then he'll be able to invest in the stock in the e-commerce business. But he's kind of shelving it at the minute just because of you've got to risk all your money up front with no guarantees that that business is going to start selling products. So when I did the journal, I had no guarantees. Because I've been a journaler for years and I understand journals and how they work, and I'm the sort of person I really buy into my own ideas, you know what I mean? I can really back myself like mentally, so yeah, I know that this is a quality product, and all I needed to do was get it well designed and get it like high quality, produced as a high quality printed product, like really high quality, and then I knew it was good enough for sales. The next bit was like, right, how the hell do I market this? You know, new brand, all that kind of thing, scarcity, brand new brand to market is hard. You've got to chuck money at marketing. So it was a risk, but given the fact that there are now sales that I can, almost like minimum sales that I can rely on, I just looked at the figures. What will the bank repayment be? So I'm going to get a bank loan to buy this stock rather than use my own money. Well, because it's a lot of fucking money and I haven't fucking got it to hand. I've got tax bills to pay and stuff. So I was like, right, I'll just get a bank loan, right? Well, a bank loan, it's this, you can do a government startup loan on a new business and you have to fill out a business plan. It's like a template. And you get a 6% loan, which is pretty damn cheap, really. Now, if I can do that because I collect weekly metrics on sales and marketing, so I know exactly all the trends through the year, so I can pretty much predict sales for the next 2 years. It's the business, you know, the business scorecard thing that I talk about, that I've done videos on. I create a business scorecard, and then I've no idea what you're talking about. Would you rather eat a baby goat or a matter baby? What are you talking about? Anyway, right. So you're throwing me off track. Stop it. So because I collect that, I'm collecting the data in that business scorecard, I can predict the future with the business. So I looked at the figures and thought, okay, repayment is this every month. Sod it, that's it. You know, we can go for it. So I'm going to get a loan, right? Now the good thing about getting the loan is, I thought about this. I thought, well, why not just get an investor? Because it's so easy to invest in this now. I can prove the sales. And I thought, well, if I get an investor at this stage, money is not, it's just part of the problem. If I get an investor at this stage, I'm giving it away. I can already prove the sale. So there kind of isn't much risk. There is low risk now because I can already prove the sales. So it's like, what is the risk in taking a loan? Not much. So there's always a right time of what type, whether you take debt finance or equity finance. I always think equity finance should only be taken if you are about to, oh, no sound. Is there sound? Can you hear me now? Hello, can you hear me? Yeah, cool. I'm just checking, is there any sound? Yeah, cool, right. I need to change my phone. I've got a new phone, and you know what it is with phones, you know, the little jack where you put the, so I have a look at this, right. I've got the fancy Rode wireless mics, and it just goes in phone with a cable. And you know, after a bit, a mate of mine who used to work with me, used to be a sales director for me. You know, when the phone jack stops playing up and you have to wiggle the wire to get it charging, he said a trick, just get your phone, get a little, like a needle, and just go in the thing and just scrape all the fluff out of it, because when you put your phone in your pocket, it collects like fluff and lint inside the jack. Just scrape it out, and you think you're going to damage it, but you won't. And it's amazing, if you scrape out that fluff, and then it'll just plug back in nice and easy. So that's what you need to do. But I need to change this phone anyway, just because, you know, I've got a new phone. Sound back on. Anyway, back on topic. Yeah, so the only time you should ever go for equity finance is if, well, one, if you can't get a bank loan or a startup loan by the government or whatever. So you need to look at the options. Two is, so if you've got absolutely nothing, you can't get a loan, you're going to have to hopefully find someone in your family or, you know, someone you know who's got some money, who's going to go for it. There, take some equity finance, you know, an investor. The other time to take an investor, I would say, is where you've reached a point in the business where it is more than you just need to buy some stock. Let's say it is you need to bring several products to market, you need to do big transformation in the business, bring on new staff, key roles, improve efficiencies, really scale up, you know, beyond just buying stock. If it's something fundamental, then yes. But I always think you should try and go as long as you can with your own means as far as possible. Now, it feels like you're taking a risk, but like I say, if you get to the point where you've proven sales for X amount of months or a year or 2 years, then what is the risk in taking a loan if you've already got proven sales? The only way that's not going to work out is if you just stop doing what you're doing and, you know, stop selling and stop doing anything and whatever, which is not what you're going to do. Sometimes you have to kind of back yourself and have confidence in yourself. And this takes me on to another point, because when I was starting that business, obviously I started that business with the comfort of already having an existing business. So it's very different to when I first started my tech business, which was a lot harder. So I had the comfort of that. But when you start a business, even if you root around for a co-founder, I remember speaking to people that have been involved with this business now, like Sim, Nicky, who right at the very start, they just didn't have the appetite, you know what I mean? So sometimes you have to take the risk yourself. And I think that comes down to the individual, you know what I mean? It's like an individual thing. Some people just have persistence and will just do it. And it's almost like, will you go 2 feet in and think, no, I'm doing this come what may, nothing's going to stop me. Or are you too risk averse, you know what I mean? And that's just an individual choice thing, but that's not what this one is about. This is purely about which type of finance should you take. The other question is, should you be taking finance at all? Well, in this case, in e-commerce, I don't think you got an option in the early days. I think when you're selling products, let's say you need stock and then you're going to sell products. So when you first buy stock, the money is tied up in the stock, right, until you sell. Now, if you run that business organically, let's say you buy stock, you sell the stock, and then when you've sold the stock, you use the money that you got from that to reinvest in more stock, right? The problem with that organic way in e-commerce is I think it's going to be too slow. That's my opinion. So when you start out, you can go, right, how much money are you going to spend on paid or organic, right? If you're going to do organic sales, which is like social media, organic videos and whatever, right? Organic SEO, keyword ranking and all that, all organic. You will sell, but it's going to be very slow because you've got brand scarcity. It's brand new. No one knows who you are. So it can take a long time for sales to pick up. And if you're happy to do that as a side hustle in the background, that's great. But if you want real speed, you're going to have to start buying traffic, right? Buying an audience, because you haven't got an audience and nobody knows who you are. So in order to buy an audience, you're going to have to spend on paid ads, you know, pay-per-click, meta ads, all this kind of stuff, right? So what that actually does if you take that route to sell quickly, this is what I did. Sold all the stock in less than a year because I aggressively marketed it. I spent money on ads. Now, that ad spend equates to most of the profit if you want to go at speed. So it's like, if your objective in business is growth, you need to chuck money at it, which means you're going to reinvest everything back in rather than take money out. You know, organic is more aligned to taking profit. So instead of taking profit, you reinvest it back in. So what that means is when you come to the end of, you've sold all the products and you've done all the marketing, you've got an audience, and you've got a little bit of growth, you've got a good start, you find yourself at a zero position. There's a little bit of profit, but not enough to buy the, you're in the same boat as you was when you started because you haven't gone organic. So you haven't took profit and saved it, which you could have reinvested in stock. You've gone for marketing, more sales, growth, speed. So the next time round, if you're going to continue that growth spiral, you need to take on an even bigger risk. So it's not the same stock, because you don't want to go at the same speed. You want even more stock to sell even more in the same period of time. So your investment is even more. And what confirmed this to me, I was listening to, you know, Chris Williamson, Modern Wisdom podcast, one of my favourite podcasts. He's done really well with it. He's very, very successful. You know, I mean, it's almost as, it's not as big as Rogan, but it's not far off, you know what I mean? And he's from Newcastle, just in the UK. Started, you know, he's done really well. He's been doing it for a few years now. And he's got an e-commerce business, you know, selling the, is it like supplements and them drinks and stuff and pre-workouts or whatever he's doing? I forget now, there's a name for it. And he's selling these products, and even he said, like, you know, you think he must have some money, right? And even he said, he's going for investment because he doesn't want to do it the organic way. He realised that we've got this traction. In order to get to the next level, he needs investment to get huge amount of stock, huge amount of automation in the business, more staff, all these kind of things. So even he knows when it comes to e-commerce, the organic route, this is the trade-off. Do you want growth or do you want to run organic? And it kind of takes me back to when I was creating the software business. You get some free help for new businesses in the UK. It's called the Business Growth Hub. We have it in Manchester. It used to be called, I can't remember. It used to be called Business Growth Hub Manchester or whatever. And as long as you was new business in Manchester, blah, 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 you qualified and you got all this free help. And one of the ones was called Access to Finance. And they were like financial advisors advising on like startup funding, all this kind of thing. And John there, the guy that I had, he was brilliant, very knowledgeable guy. And he turned around and said to me at the time, I was talking about funding for the software. And he said, do you actually want funding, Andy? He said, he sent me away to have a look at things. He said, watch, Print the Legend, you know the film Print the Legend about, it's a story that tracks 3 companies that entered the 3D printing market. And there was, the star of the show was the MakerBot, remember it, that? Like, its opening gambit was, it cost about 500 quid. And then its opening gambit was it could print another one of itself, so it could almost like replicate itself. It could start printing its own parts and all this stuff, which was pretty cool. And then there was another one by another company who, I can't remember the name of it, that says everything. But this company was using a different technology, which was more aligned to stereolithography, which was how you do like weapons prototyping and plane prototyping and stuff like this. That's a very expensive technology compared to 3D printing. It's a lot more detailed, a lot more refined. And they were trying to commoditize it, you know, bring it into like a commercially off the shelf, you know, like more of a reasonable price. And then there was another company who, what were there? Was there a third company? I think there was. Oh, it was like, yeah, they were one of the big, I think it was 3D Systems actually. They were like a big international. They were the big international who had the massive 3D printing machines that were like 30 grand each. And that company, 3D Systems, went after the other company for a copyright or patent, some kind of IP infringement. The one that was doing the stereolithography, the expensive route. They dragged him through the courts for like 10 years, 20 years. And anyway, the moral of the story was the MakerBot team took investment, and what it did is the investment ends up bringing a new boss, because you have investors to satisfy, a lot more pressure, targets, all this kind of thing. And it kind of broke the team. The synergy of the team fell apart because it broke the team. The growth figures were extreme, and the founders all fell out and stuff like that. Whereas over here, the company that was being taken to court, the one that was doing the stereolithography type technology, the more complicated technology, decided to run organic, and they didn't scale the same. This one scaled bananas. This one didn't scale the same, but they all had a happy life, and it was more like a lifestyle business, more like happy life. Everyone got on. There were no falling out. They eventually got sold out, but they grew it organically to a point where it was worth whatever. I think they got like 16 million at one point, or 20 million for it at a point. And then they actually got bought out by 3D Systems and stuff, the very companies that was dragging them through the courts. And the moral of the story was, which is what John said to me at the time, he said, do you want another boss? And at the time, I definitely did not. And he said, why don't you try and grow it organically, right? And avoid taking investment. So I decided to go that route. And then there was another VC that I spoke to, like a venture capitalist that I spoke to. My mate worked for one of his companies, a couple of mates. And he told me the same. He said, why don't you try and run this organically for a bit before you seek investment? So I started to do that. And to be honest, I stuck to that for far too many years. Far more years than I should have done. I should have took investment. I didn't. I went organic. We took some funding in bits and bats and various things, but never gave away the equity. And the moral was, I don't want to spend on this business now 10 years building it like that organically now. So it depends on where you are. There's always a time where you think, sod this, I'm not doing it organic. But you do have that question. Right, so do you run organic or do you seek funding? Right, if you run organic, you might need things like debt finance, like loans. Right, if you can manage a loan, that's taking all the risk yourself, but as long as you can prove the sales, it's not really risky. Whereas if you're going to pass all the risk off to an investor, you're going to give too much away too soon. There's always that decision. Do you want a boss? Do you want to lose control? Do you want to keep it and like bet yourself for a bit longer, take the pain just a bit longer? It's just a decision. I don't think there's a right or wrong way. So yeah, I'll probably do another one on this because there are several options to getting finance. If you have an idea that you really want to do and you think you're stuck and it's like, I ain't got any money, how am I going to get money for this new idea? And also you might have to work a job at the same time. Don't forget I'm doing that. I've got my main business, I've got that job which takes up most of my time, so the e-commerce is on the side. So I can't even devote full time to it, but I'm still going to take a risk. I'll do some more content on this because I think it's important. Maybe I'll share the research I've done and where to get money. All right, thanks very much. See you all next time.